Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand, and in this session on geomorphology, we are going to learn about one of the most important and relevant topics in geomorphology, that is applied geomorphology. So one portion of the applied geomorphology, that is geohydrology, we have already learned in the previous sessions. So in today's session, we are going to learn about the various other components of applied geomorphology and see for ourselves that how this knowledge of geomorphology about this topography and various features help us in applied ways in our daily life. So let's learn about it. But before we go ahead, please like and subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to share the videos with others as well. So now, after learning all the components of geomorphology, the last component that is important and one of the most relevant component in today's times is applied geomorphology. Now, when we say applied geomorphology, it always has a connotation which is related to human beings. So when we say applied, it means who is applying it and for whom it is applied. We talk in terms of human beings. So how is these concept that we studied right from the theory of landform development to various components to various kinds of landforms and processes, all those denudation. So how is it linked to us as human beings? And our development is related to geomorphology in what ways? So that is where we come into this picture of applied geomorphology, where we study the components of geomorphology and its various characteristics, its various concepts, and try and apply into this real life scenario and understand its role in our living, in our planning. So that is important. So the role of applied geomorphology, we know, is that it relates to the problems of analyzing and monitoring landscape forming processes that may arise from human interference. So remember, applied geomorphology is not independently just geomorphology. It has a linkage with human beings as well. That is important. So human beings do what? They tame and modify these geomorphic environment. So that is important here for their economic needs, for their important needs of daily life. That is why it is important. And apart from that, why we say human beings are important, because increase of this population in the world that we have seen across all continents, right? So continuous increase in population has led to what? This kind of pressure on the land resources, agriculture, hilly areas, plain areas, deltas, coastal areas, even islands are populated. So what is happening? Lots of processes that are there in the geomorphic process that we have studied, the denudational processes, those processes are being impacted, and now those processes are also being hindered at many places by human beings. So that is where processes like soil erosion, landslides, sedimentation, floods, all these things lead to this kind of catastrophe all around human beings' society. So that is where applied geomorphology is important to study in order to understand how these geomorphic connection helps us to actually plan in a better way in our daily life, our society, our economy. So all these things come as a handy tool when we know that what is geomorphology and how it can help us in the planning stage. So that is the relevance of this applied subject. So in the basic way, we can understand that if this is the tree of applied geomorphology, what are its various fruits or components? One is its social significance. So how as a society, rural or urban or any society that is plain society, mountain society, if we talk about in terms of landforms, so how is it significant to us? Then its impact and management, that is important. So how is this geomorphic process, these landform making process, this denudational process having an impact, but at the same time, how are we as human beings impacting those processes, those landforms, those slopes, those valleys? Remember, that is important. Apart from that, identification of these regions and preventing losses, these are important for us as a planner. So for planning of human society, for city planning, urban planning, for rural planning, for environmental planning, all these planning and identification of these regions for better execution of plans. So that is where it is important to understand applied geomorphology. And as we know that decision making is one important thing. So even if you're going for a civil services exam, what you are going to be is talking about any decision to be executed. So if you know well about the geomorphological components of the area, I think the decision can be more human friendly as well as nature friendly. That is where the applied part of this discipline is important. So geomorphology has diverse application, as we know, over a large area of human activity, and geomorphologists may serve more effectively to the need of society. That's why geomorphology is one of the core components of the general studies paper as well. So we have these current problems and we also have these future predictions, which is somewhere related to the applied aspects of geography, and especially when we talk about physical geography, the geomorphology part that is important. So our decisions will hamper or make, remember both the aspects. Whatever we decide today and apply on the ground, either it can go positive as well as negative. So it will have an impact on the landscape, on the geomorphology as well. That is where we need to understand that whatever is the current situation, can it be solved with our planning and proper execution? In what ways, till what extent? And accordingly we can make future plans. For example, we make city planning, right? We make different plans for different years or for a given timeline. We make master plans. So in that, the physical component has to be incorporated. That is where geomorphologists come into the picture. That is where geographers, geologists come into the picture. That is where these geoscientists, as we say, come into the picture, where this decision making for future prediction or future projection of what we are going to do in present comes into the picture. So the first part of this applied geomorphology is this geomorphology along with hydrology, which we have already learned in the previous session, that is geohydrology, or many times it is called hydrogeology as well. So basically the human beings are there on the surface, and what is there? Surface water is also there, while water is also there inside the groundwater, which human beings harness for drinking purpose. That is important as fresh water. So these lithological zones, remember the aquifer concept, that is important for this groundwater. And there are various examples. For example, karst plains lacks filter cover. Then swallow holes, sinkholes, karst valleys. Remember all we have studied in the karst landforms. Remember these areas do not have drinkable underground water. Then apart from that, periglacial topography and geomorphic history of an area could detect the presence of or the absence of underground water. So to even understand that if there is a presence of underground water in an area, we can understand through looking at the structure of this area in terms of its geology and geomorphology. Like, for example, understanding the porosity, permeability of the rock, the characteristic of aquifer or aquifuge, that is important. So these are important in terms of the hydrological parameter. So that's where geomorphology and hydrology come together as hydrogeology, or we can say geohydrology. The next important thing is again geomorphology linked with the mineral exploration. Now remember, this is part of the economic geomorphology, if you can say that. Why? Because exploration and exploitation of the minerals from within the earth's surface is largely part of the geology, and also when it is extracted on the surface, it is part of the geomorphology. So that is where geological or the natural structure that we say is important. And remember, we have already studied about various kinds of landforms, its characteristics, the rocks and minerals. So we know that which kind of minerals are how valuable for human beings. So what happens? We as human beings are always in search of different kinds of minerals. And how do we know what kind of mineral can be formed? By looking at its geological formation and structure, by looking at its geomorphology. So that is where topographic expression are important to understand what kind of deposits it will have. So geological structure and topography of any area will have a correlation with the accumulation of its minerals. So if you understand the geological structure and topography of an area, you can actually identify and say that this area must have this kind of accumulation of minerals. So this physical condition is what is important, which actually leads to the accumulation of a particular kind of mineral in an area. So for example, the lead zinc lode could be marked by conspicuous ridge in the Broken Hill of Australia as we find it. Then quartz veins could stand out prominently as they are much more resistant to erosion. As we know, quartz is erosion resistant, it is hard. So that is important in various areas of the world. For example, Mexico. In Himalayan region also we can see in India what kind of rocks are there. So largely we find sandstone, siltstone, and then further we find also different kinds of metamorphic rocks as well. And then further, when we go higher in Himalaya, we find different kinds of rock layer, rock structure, metamorphic rocks, and also limestone, clay stone, chalk stone, all those minerals and rocks are found. So it depends upon that what kind of mineral is there and what can be extracted. For example, for cement industry, the lime content and gypsum content is important. So this is where geomorphology comes into the picture in applied aspect. That if we have knowledge of geomorphology, we can apply that knowledge to extract that particular mineral that is important here. So related to this is something called placer deposits. Now remember, placer deposits are also one of the important evidences where, remember that earlier lecture of continental drift theory, that placer deposits are also found on the margins of different continents, which says that they were deposited at the same time with the same process. So placer deposits are what? They are basically mixtures of heavy metals with specific location, and geomorphic principles are important to actually understand these heavy metals at specific locations in terms of placer deposits. So it is part of the economic geology and geomorphology both. So geomorphic processes are main important cause for the placer concentration of minerals found at specific locations in the world. There are 9 types of placer deposits, that is important to remember, and they are residual or seam diggings, as we say. Now this is a phrase which is part of this residual part of what? Remember those deposits we have learned in the various kinds of landforms and processes: colluvial material, aeolian material, then we have bajadas, beach material, glacial material. All these important materials will have certain kinds of metals or minerals, and when they have these heavier metals of a particular kind, then these deposits are known as particular placer deposits. So for example, these are alluvial placer deposits if the material is coming from this colluvium or bajadas or this kind of important moraines in the valley. So if you look into this, what you see here is stream placer here, these kind of fluvial placer deposits, residual placer deposits. So this is an image where you can understand what kind of deposits we are talking here. Further, when we see colluvial placers like chelates, then you have alluvial placers like the kaksas. So remember these chelates and kaksas, these are the important names which are found in different parts of the world. Then the most important minerals like gold, tin, diamonds are obtained from alluvial placers. So this is a catch here. Gold, tin and diamonds, these are part of the alluvial placer deposits. Then further, South Africa's diamonds from Vaal and Orange River districts, the Lichtenberg area, the Belagian Congo and Brazil's Minas Gerais. So these are the areas where alluvial placer deposits have been found. Now, placer deposits have total share of about 20% of world diamonds. So remember how important are these deposits, and that's where we say that applied geomorphology is important to understand these kind of deposits and where human beings extract them for their economic purposes. So regions of Australia, Lower California, Mexico, they have yielded gold in aeolian placers. Remember those deposits due to the wind. So aeolian placers also have these kind of gold deposits as well. Now, zircon is another important mineral and crystal which in India, Brazil and Australia are found, and remember ilmenite and monazite, these are found in Indian coastal area of Travancore, and India have yielded beach placers. So remember these placer deposits are of high value, and this is part of this applied economic geology or geomorphology that we talk about. The another significant area of applied geomorphology is this oil exploration and how it is related. Remember that through geological time period, through the history, the Carboniferous era, the carbon formation, the rock oil formation, the metamorphic structures formation beneath the surface of the earth, these mineral oil or rock oil and natural gas have been deposited. But how is it that we understand that where, what kind of deposit is there? It is from this topographic expression study. So this is where geomorphology comes into the picture. So these oil fields are characterized by anticlinal structures generally, which strikingly reflect the topography. So if you look into this Gulf Coast salt dome in the Gulf area where you have lots of oil wells, remember these salt domes are here, oil well is dug here, so it has natural gas and rock oil which is there. So this is where the topographic structures gives an idea of this oil exploration, and drainage analysis is particularly also useful in certain areas where it suggests about this particular topographic relief and kind of rocks which are there in the low depths. Apart from that, permeability may be either primary or secondary in carbonate rocks. Number of large oil yields from limestone has been obtained from rocks which have been high degree of permeability. So that is where this permeability comes into the picture. That's where geomorphology is related to oil exploration as well. Apart from that, the geomorphology and engineering work is highly related and relevant in current situation. How it is there? We already know that lots of road construction activity go on the hillsides, and there are lots of subsidence also happening in various areas. So we must understand about the slope, about the feature, about the fold, about its structure. That's where road construction is important. Dam site selection, remember the making of reservoir and particular places, that is important. Location of the sand and gravel pits from where the open cast mining is being done, that is which is related to the surface feature, topography and characteristic of the rocks, that is part of geomorphology. And recently we have inaugurated a great tunnel that we know as the Atal Tunnel Rohtang. So how it was planned, the planning of tunnel also depends upon what kind of structure is there, what kind of rock is there through which, how can the tunnel be created. And remember this image right from the south portal to this north portal across this Himalayan belt of this Pir Panjal. This tunnel has been recently created. Earlier this was the structure of Rohtang where people used to climb and go this way, and it used to be very hazardous. So this tunnel has been opened up. So these are certain engineering works that require the knowledge of geomorphology. That is where it is applied. So that is what is interesting. And also remember that geomorphology is not just independent of geology. So many times people say that no, geology is important. Geomorphology and geology is interconnected. So you have to remember that if there's a geologist, he also will have knowledge of automatically the topographical features and geomorphology. And also many geomorphologists would have the knowledge of geology. But it is significant part of geography. That's why there is a bifurcation of geomorphology and geology. So that is important to understand. Now again, another important part where geology and geomorphology is applied is the military geology or military geomorphology. Why? So remember, these areas have been in news in recent times. In India, in basically Ladakh sector, armies have occupied particular positions from where they can actually have a vantage or an advantage both. So vantage point from where they can look into different directions, and then they can be secure and they can hold the post. So that is where it is important to understand these topographical features, that from which knobs, as you have understood, rocky knob and different kinds of tops, so different Kala top, rocky knob, all those places that we see, apart from these valleys, these alluvial fans that you see in these valleys. So all those important topographical study that is part of the largely mountain geomorphology is part of this military geography, and this is the evident example where this knowledge of geomorphology and geology is applied for military activities. So that is what is important as well. Now for regional planners also, as we have understood, that geomorphology is important because planning involves understanding the present and planning for the future. To understand the areas, we have also to understand the physical property of the areas, which is largely part of the geomorphology. And we know that lots of forest areas, mountain areas, plateau areas, recreational areas, rural and urban areas, this can be only delineated for the planning basically in terms of the regional planning when we know about this geomorphology. So this is the linkage of regional planning with geomorphology as well. So rural or underdeveloped terrain fulfills variety of recreational needs as well. We have seen in the very rural countryside and areas. Then we have also seen land use and land suitability maps, which are important for different area planning. Then detailed information on topography is important for any regional planner to give advice for the projects to be established in those areas. So that is important for the development of overall region. And related to this is again urbanization. So remember, any particular urban pattern is there on a given surface, given slope, given topography, which has to be understood. So remember, a scientist R.U. Cook talked about this kind of urban geomorphology, and he said that the study of landforms and their related processes, materials and hazards, ways that are beneficial to planning, development and management of urbanized areas where urban growth is expected. So this is what we have to study under urban geomorphology. We have to understand all these processes, materials, hazards and its management before actually planning a smart city or any city for that matter. So this means city or towns entirely depends upon lithological and topographical features. So that is where it is important to understand the lithological structure. Accordingly, a city can be built, an infrastructure can be built. So that is where it is important. Then for hazard management, in the disaster management, people talk about this geomorphology. Again, if you look into this image, you see this houses have been built on a particular slope, but here is a huge landslide, a slump being created, and here is a road construction. So you see this problem here. This is what we talk as hazard management and using the geomorphological knowledge, creation of an alternative route maybe to actually connect people. So this is where in hazard management geomorphology plays a vital role. According to Shirley, geomorphic hazard may be defined as what? Any change in natural or man-made that can be affecting the particular landform stability, geomorphic stability, and the adversity of living things can be created because of this. So every year when we say that in hills there are lots of landslides, lots of settlements go down, lots of roads are broken, this is where we need to understand that hazard management is important when we talk about geomorphology, and features like volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, landslides, avalanches, floods, these are what? These are part of the geomorphology we have already studied as processes, as landforms. So volcanoes, earthquakes, and landslides, avalanches, floods are part of the denudation process, that is mass wasting we have studied. So that's where these knowledge is important, and folding, faulting, all these warping, uplifting, and subsidence, that is the diastrophic movement, the endogenetic process we have studied, which is long-term factor related to what? Climate change as well. So that is where past case histories of these important hazards or potential hazards are important to study and plan actually. So that is where in hazard management the role of geomorphology is vital. So now, when we have studied about the applied geomorphology, its various components, its interaction with different sciences, and its various facets of applied nature, now we need to understand that this entire segment of first lecture on introduction to geomorphology to this applied geomorphology is the entire subject matter of geomorphology. So if you want lectures on any other topic which I may not have made video earlier, you can request me in the comment box below. So all the best wishes for all the exams, and keep studying, keep learning, stay safe.